Bible and stuff. And one of the craziest experiences that I had when I was younger, a friend of mine's uncle was a pastor, and he needed they were telling me that they had just rented their storefront church to a Latino community. So if you've driven around South Central, you'll see churches all over the place, everywhere, right? They're small and they're just everywhere, and you'll see black churches and Latino churches, etc. But when you go into these, they're not, like all the African American churches and all the black churches aren't the same. Like the worships are like vary from where place to place you go, and so are the Latino churches. But one time when I went to my friend's uncle's church, they had a Jesus painted on mural. Yeah. And this Jesus looked a little different from all the Jesus I had seen. This Jesus' hair was different.
He was black.
His skin was a little darker.
Yeah.
And I was very confused, almost like a little bit offended by it because I didn't understand. I was like 12 years old. It'd never been something I'd seen.
Yeah.
And then he told me, my friend, he told me this. He's like, hey, I went to an Asian church, and there was also a mural of Jesus, and he wasn't white and he wasn't black either.
It was Asian?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So and so that brought some curiosity to me to think like, wait, how, like, what does Jesus look like? And I realized that what we were doing in all these cultures was reading scripture through our cultural lens.
Oh, yeah.
Not through the lens of historically accurately interpreting scripture. And so we were making Jesus into our image.
Sure. Yeah.
And so when we do have struggles in the brown community, black community, Asian community, when we have these struggles, we think, yeah, Jesus died and grieves for our struggle the most. Because it's what we know. It's what we've experienced. Sure, yeah. And so it's hard. And another reason why maybe sometimes we don't band together, with churches is because, here in the United States, maybe black churches and brown churches, our plights are different. And we feel that our struggle is a competition, but also, bro, it's just heavy enough to focus and to think about this. And I'm so focused on the struggle of my people that, man, I don't have time to carry your struggle. Like, this is tough, it's tough. And for Latinos, and I'll give you the answer to, at the beginning of the show, you said, hey, I don't see a lot of black communities advocating and protesting for the struggles of immigrant rights, etc. I think one of the reasons, and it's not their fault, because and when I talk to my friends about this, because I told my friends, man, I'm a little resentful.
Yeah.
Because we march for you.
Yeah.
We march with you. Your struggle is our struggle. We take a knee. We put our fists in the air. We make the signs. We did the blackout on Instagram as well. Yeah. Latinos who could barely speak English, we blacked out our Instagram in solidarity with you guys. Yeah. And then when our people are struggling, we don't see you guys marching with us. We don't see you guys making a sign. We don't see you guys saying, El pueblo unido nunca será vencido. We don't see you guys learning our chants in our protests. Yeah. And they said it's exactly that, Fredy. It's the language. See, you know English, and in school, you're taught the stories of the struggle of our forefathers, the slaves, the civil rights movement. You know Harriet Tubman's name and her story. You know Martin Luther King. We celebrate Frederick Douglass and all his contributions to African Americans in black communities. You know what Rosa Parks did and he's like, we don't know. We only know Cesar Chavez like this because all the stories of your forefathers are in Spanish. We don't know Spanish. Yeah. They haven't made it into the textbooks that we have. And so my friends were like, hey, we just didn't know you guys struggle. Like, we didn't know that you guys are struggling in this country. Yeah. We didn't know that farm workers are essentially slaves. Slavery is still happening and exploitation is still happening legally in the United States. Like it was happening with African Americans and black people. It's happening still with migrant farm workers, getting paid $5 a day to work in horrible conditions, no health care whatsoever, no housing whatsoever, being abused. And they go, we didn't know. Yeah. And so it is that aspect of the assumption that, hey, you guys owe us something because we marched with you, we protested with you. But but it's not entirely their fault either. We haven't been the ones to vocalize and say, hey, this is our struggle. So I would say if more people, two things. If we stopped seeing Jesus through like our image, right? Like Jesus most relates to what community, and he looks like most what community.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, hey, we should all look more like Jesus, as where all our cultures and races are gearing to be more like him, as opposed to trying to make him more like everyone else. That would unify us.
Yeah.
And number two, having what we're doing right now, Tommy, like what we're doing right now, having the conversation, having the dialogue. I had to ask my friends, hey, why does it feel like I'm like reposting your stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm advocating for and I'm educating ignorant people.
Yeah.
On the things that are offensive to you, but you don't care to know. And I had to ask, and I realized it wasn't their fault. They weren't intentionally blacklisting us. And so,
I mean, I think outside the kingdom that happens.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like,
and they pit us.
I'm sure even in the church for sure, but yeah, absolutely, man.
And one of the reasons gang violence started like, big time was needed for protection because the suits, they felt that not only it was protection against white people, but it was also against African Americans. And African Americans, they ganged up because they needed to. It wasn't, before the Bloods and Crips. It wasn't. It was black gangs and brown gangs.
Yeah.
Now you have subdivisions of all these things fighting against each other. But before it was a language thing. Is we didn't understand each other, so we couldn't communicate. The socioeconomic aspect of it as well. Both of these communities are at the low point of programs and resources. Yeah. They go to the most underprivileged, under-resourced, underfunded schools. So it feels like we are embedded with a scarcity mindset. There's not enough for everyone, so we all have to share. So what ends up happening from a very young age, if you go to these inner city schools, is that you have to fight for yours.
Oh, yeah, man.
Because he is just as hungry as I am. So if he's not going to use his lunch ticket, I'm going to go ahead and use that lunch ticket to get myself an extra sandwich or whatever and save it for later.
Right.
We're fighting for scraps because of the socioeconomic discrepancies.